Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Praise Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopina Shyam Kund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri ki jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. Gaur Premanande. Om Jnana Timidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manodishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Yadam Svavadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Rupa Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupa That no one can refrain from acting even for a moment because we're being moved by the strong forces of the three modes of material nature. And that kind of movement in this world, Krishna says in the Gita, keeps one bound life after life in a very predictable way. Although there are mixtures of the modes of nature, practically it's the same thing over and over again. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, Punas charvita charvananam, that in this world, we're chewing that which has already been chewed. It's already been tried, all the different flavors and combinations of flavors. And the taste doesn't last. But still, because of having no alternative, no better knowledge or superior taste, I go on trying to taste something new. But it's not really new, it's just combinations, permutations of what I've tasted before. So punak punak charvita charvanam. Again and again I try to taste. And the taste is limited and temporary. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it has a beginning and an end, and therefore a wise person doesn't take pleasure in this kind of enjoyment. That is temporary enjoyment, trying to taste through the senses something in this world. So there's a different kind of movement and moving for a different kind of purpose, and that's all of you have come here, and not without some trouble. Travel means trouble. When you're at home, you get what you want. When you travel, you get what you get. And there's a lot of hurry up and wait. People say, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, and you get there and you say, okay, wait. And it's actually good to go through this austerity of coming to the Dham, to a holy place. You're moving for a different reason. You're not moving for any self-interest. That is, any material self-interest. Of course, you're moving for your highest self-interest. But the Shastras talk about how coming to the holy Dham is purifying in all its aspects, and that includes the austerity it takes to get here. And to go back also, because that's another whole thing. And then you're going back missing the Dham at the same time. When you're coming, you're feeling anticipation of arriving and so forth. But the trouble you take to come here and the difficulty that you go through, which is inevitable, is purifying. And this is the difference between movement in the material world for a motive of sense gratification and moving towards improving oneself spiritually and coming to the Dham. So I congratulate everyone, and it's practically a dream come true to be sitting here in the holy Dham of Mayapur with all of you. And Srivas Pandit Prabhu and I talked about coming to the Dham here in Mayapur even up to 5 years ago, I think. We mentioned it. And it seemed to us somehow elusive, out of reach. And we kept dreaming and talking about it. And then somehow or other this year, it magically came together. Of course, I say magically, but there were a lot of devotees working very hard behind the scenes to make sure that it happened. And everything happens in due course of time. Often we have needs and desires, spiritual needs and desires, aspirations to have certain kinds of association or do certain types of things. And they come in a descending way. We have to wait. Patience is something that Rupa Goswami mentions in the Nectar of Instruction, that when you perform your duties in spiritual life, you have to be patient and wait for the result to come. But it will come. Prabhupada this morning was speaking about how when you hear a chant about Krishna, he described it as a kind of pregnancy. When there's conception, then the child will come. So similarly, when you hear a chant about Krishna and the association of pure devotees, Satam Prasangam Avirya Samvido Bhavanti Dritkarna Rasayana Kata Taj Joshana Ashwa Pavarga Varmani Shradhara Tir Bhaktir Manukramishati. There's a step-by-step evolution in spiritual life that occurs naturally and inevitably. And in fact, when one starts this process, Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Instruction, even if one changes one's mind, he or she will be forcibly dragged to the goal by the power of the transcendental sound itself. And the Holy Dham is a connection. It is actually not different from the spiritual world, just as there are embassies in various countries. And when you walk in, I once went to the embassy in, I think it was Calcutta or New Delhi. I'd been in India a long time and had a reason to go to the embassy. And I remember standing at the door and looking in. There was a U.S. Marine inside, and they had American bottled water. And all the brands I could see over the desk were all American brands. But I recognized it, of course. And nothing, from the local country, everything brought in from America. Just over the desk, and only in this one little building were all the things American. And similarly, when we come to the Holy Dham, everything is from the spiritual world. And Krishna talks about this, how in the Bhagavad Gita, how this material world is made up of separated material energy: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. And these are separated energies. But there's a world which is made up of the internal energy. Arastasmatu bhavo yom vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yaksak sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu navinashiti. When everything in this world is annihilated, that world remains as it is. It's not subject to the changes of the material world. And of course, in the spiritual world, people move for different reasons than one might in the material world. The material world is, the movement is forced by a sense of debt, which we call karma, because I'm born into debt. Devarshi bhutatna nrinam vidrinam nakinkaro nayam ranicharajan sarvapaya sharanam sharanyam gatom kundam priyakritikaartam. As soon as I'm born, I have a debt to the devas, to the rishis, to all kinds of other living entities, to my forefathers. Everything I'm getting, I may think it's for free, just like at home. You get, if you flip the light switch, you get, and you turn on the tap, you get, and you turn on the gas stove, and you get, and then you open the mailbox, and you get a bill. And so, I think that all that I'm doing in this world is, and all that I'm getting is coming for free. But the Vedas say that actually we're debtors. We owe for all these kinds of facilities that we get in this world. However, one who surrenders to Krishna, Sarvamaya Sharanam Sharanyam, means that you give yourself to Krishna and surrender to God. And that's your main service, that's your main interest in life. You're moving only for that purpose, to serve God. Then you're no longer a debtor. So the movement in the spiritual world is not out of the sense that I owe and I have to pay off the debt, but it is because I'm happy. It's the first symptom of spiritual life. Evam prasanna manaso. The mind simply becomes happy. And in the spiritual world, the Dham here in Mayapur, there's one who comes here for the purpose of advancing in spiritual life, to serve the Dham, can feel that happiness naturally just by being here. And the vibration is different. And in the spiritual world, described by Lord Brahma in the Brahma Samhita, every word is a song, every gait is a dance. Everyone's moving out of happiness, out of joy. They're dancing and singing and so forth. But not for a profit, but simply because they're glorifying Krishna. And that's the nature of the Holy Dham. And this particular Dham is especially important for us. In Vrindavan, the Dham is called Madhurya. It's all sweet. And you can experience that sweetness in Vrindavan if you stay there and serve the Dham. You can feel that sweetness if you're at the Krishna Balaram Mandir, listening to the 24-hour kirtan, looking at Krishna Balaram. Everything's sweet about that Dham. People have become satisfied in their service there. There's a devotee who has the most enviable service in the Dham, I think, in Sri Vrindavan. And that is, he works at the showroom just outside the Krishna Balaram Mandir. And of course, in the Shastra, there's a lot about how the dust from the feet of the devotees is the most purifying substance in the universe, and one should seek to get that dust. So this devotee has volunteered. He volunteered some years ago to work inside the shoe room. It's a metal cage, and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people over a couple of years come there during festivals and other times of the year, and they leave their shoes, and he picks them up, puts them in a little slot, and then he takes them back down again and gives them to the people as they leave. And somehow by the power, the magic of that dust, he's developed an uncanny sense that you don't have to give him a number, even out of thousands of people. It's true, right? He just sees you coming and he pulls your shoes down and puts them down. And you can see on some nights when there are, 5,000, 10,000 people coming through on a Kartik night, he just takes the shoes down and puts them there. Those who live in the Dham and they're there just to serve Krishna, they feel a natural sweetness. They feel happiness in their heart. And therefore that Dham is called Madhurya, and Krishna's pastimes there are sweet. And this Dham, Aradra Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas, it's a Dham of Vrindavana. This Dham, the Dham is non-different from Krishna, and Shastra says that the Vrindavan and Mayapur are the same. There's no difference between the two. But then they say there is a difference. Although Vrindavan is Madhurya, sweet, this Dham is called Audorya. Audorya means that it's overflowing sweetness. There is a vessel which is so full of sweetness in Vrindavan, it's full to the top. Everything's sweet. Madhuram, Madhuram, Naparasya, Vibor, Madhuram, 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 Madhuram. There's these verses, sweet, 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 it's so sweet. But then when you come to the Audorya Dham here in Mayapur, the mood is that, yes, the sweetness is there, complete, but it's so full, it's overflowing. The vessel is overflowing and it's being distributed to everybody else. That's the mood of the Audorya Dham, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come here, or has advented specifically, well, for many reasons. One reason is to experience the love of his greatest devotee, Radharani, and his other business is to distribute that to everybody else. Seeing that people have, for a long time, not been able to access the process of spiritual life very easily. And then in Kali Yuga especially, people would be very slow to take to spiritual life and disadvantaged. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu freely gives the highest benefit to everybody, the highest spiritual benefit, and great generosity. So much so that Karabhajana Muni says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is chasing after the suffering souls of the world and giving them Krishna consciousness. He'll give it to everybody who wants it. And Lord Nityananda gives it to everybody even if they don't want it. And the two are described as having arisen on the horizon of Goda here in West Bengal, like the sun and the moon simultaneously. And someone might think, oh, this maybe is a sentimental movement. Others have thought like this. Prakashananda Saraswati and some of the very austere Mayavadi sannyasis saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing and singing, and they thought, this is just sentimentalism. These people are just a little crazy.
And however, behind this great Audorya is a wealth of knowledge, a complete philosophy. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked his followers, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, to come to Vrindavan and to show where the holy places, to excavate the original holy places of Krishna's pastimes, and also to lay out the framework for this sampradaya through intricate philosophy, which they did, explaining in very clear detail with exquisite philosophical presentation the goal of life and how to attain it, bringing in all the different scriptures, Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipanosa Dharma Samstapako, that they established for the benefit of everyone a very clear understanding of the goal of life based on all the revealed scriptures. Painstakingly, they put everything together. So, on all levels, philosophically, one can be fortified and understand what is the goal of life through this mountain of literature. And one can also have a simple practice by chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and living a simple life, a purified life, and following the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even as a young child, was brilliant in all ways and performed miraculous feats that amazed the minds of everyone. He was so beautiful when walking through the streets of Navadvip, the way he tied his dhoti up and the way he looked was indescribable. Well, actually, it is describable. The devotees said that he looked like Cupid personified. And he would turn heads. Everyone's probably experienced that when someone's so attractive that you can't stop turning your head. That happens. In fact, people try to do that all the time. You see these billboards now everywhere. They try to capture people who have, who are well proportioned, and then they'll put up a big, billboard to attract the attention, and they may be selling something completely different, but at least the reaction is there. It's like, what was that? And then they say, buy a typewriter or whatever it is. And everyone's attracted to beauty in this world, but Krishna is the most beautiful, and he's also the most knowledgeable. Kavim Puranam Manushashitaram. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you should meditate on me as Kavim, who is the most intelligent of the intelligent. And Nimai Pandit, in his pastimes, here in this dham, when he was a young boy, used to go up and down the Ganga, where there were various tolls. There were schools where young students would follow a particular teacher and become accomplished in Sanskrit and other kinds of skills, grammar, and logic and such. And even as a young boy, he excelled in all his studies immediately, and he could defeat anyone. So he was very puffed up when he was a child, and proud of his learning. And he had many followers. Young people, they sort of, when they see someone in their group that's prominent, they sort of make a clique, and they get around him and they say, yeah, I'm with him. And everyone got around Nimai Pandit because he was so expert that he would go up and down the Ganga, and there would be groups of these students who were following other teachers. And then, even as a younger student, he would stand and challenge them. And they would say, why are you so puffed up? Why are you coming and challenging? He said, just answer my questions and see what happens. And then he would bring up an argument, and they would try to defeat it. And what he would do, he would defeat their argument in such an intricate way that they would be amazed. And they would say, that was amazing. How did you do that? He said, you're amazed? I'll show you something else. That was a completely fallacious argument, and then he would defeat his own argument and leave them completely bewildered, standing there wondering what had happened. And then he would march on to the next place to challenge the next group of students. And he spent his childhood in this Leela of great scholarship and learning and taking on other students who followed him. And oftentimes when he was going up and down the Ganga, he also caused all kinds of mischief. Described by Vrindavan Das Thakur in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, how when he was a young boy, he would disturb the pandits who would be performing their different religious rituals along the bank of the Ganga. And he would sometimes, while the different sadhus were bathing in the Ganga, he would take their clothes and mix them up, so when they got out, they couldn't find their clothes, but they would be replaced with other people's clothes. And sometimes with their puja paraphernalia, he would hide it or play mischief. And sometimes he would even come from underneath the water and come up and spit water on some of these Brahmins who were would be very much disturbed by that, feel contaminated and have to start all over again in their process of puja and so forth. And sometimes, at one time, it became so, they were so agitated that they ran home to his house to complain to his father, Jagannath Mishra, who became very angry and started out for the Ganges to find his son and severely chastise him. And Nimai's friends gave him forewarning and said, "Your father's coming and he's really bad." And so Nimai told him, "When he gets here, tell him that you haven't seen me." And so meanwhile, because he's a supreme mystic, he walked home, but it appeared that he hadn't been in the water and even had ink on his hands, as if he had been at school dutifully doing his homework and studying and such. And as he approached his home and saw his father was coming the other direction, he had Jagannath Mishra had received many reports that Nimai was down in the Ganga creating havoc, and now he sees him walking with his books and his pristine cloth and just some ink on his hands like he'd been at school. And in this way he bewildered his father through his mystic powers, who also gave him strong words, but then couldn't figure out what had